Hi everyone and welcome to Beloved Grace. I am your host Miron Asnaca, and on this week's episode we're going to talk about leaders and moral failures. On this week's episode I was on the news as usual and I noticed a couple of things, and I obviously came across the articles and the social media posts and the YouTube channel feeds about Pastor Carl Lentz of Hillsong, New York, being fired from his position because he stepped out on his wife and has been having an affair of 5 months throughout the pandemic with a young lady that was, I think, outside of his church. But I wanted to bring it to our attention because there's a couple of things that I observed and noticed that I wanted to share for us believers, right? And even anybody who's not in the Christian faith, for us to be warned about when it comes to how we treat and see leadership, right? And the first thing I observed is the fact that we are so our faith is caught up with how well our leaders are doing. And yes, I'm not saying that leaders should not be, kept or held at a higher standard, and there is definitely consequences to all of our actions, and rightfully and biblically so, that given the fact that he was a leading pastor at a church, he was let go and sat down because of his affair, and he now has to build a sense of community, a sense of reconciliation with his wife, and whatever the next step is going to look like for their family. But I noticed that a lot of us, including myself, put so much pressure on our leaders to be these perfect beings where there's no room for error. Once again, I'm not excusing an affair, I'm not excusing his actions, but I see that our church, the church of, the people, the congregation, seem to rely a lot on how well our pastors are doing spiritually. And when they do fall, as humans do, as we all do, that it seems like there's no coming back for our own faith walk. And that shows our hearts and where we are as believers and as our followers of Jesus Christ. So we've now become followers of the pastor, right? If my faith crumbles because the leader has fallen, it's an indication to me where my worship has been, right? And that was kind of one of my red flags. And my first instinct was I can't believe another pastor, come on, right? But then I had to check myself. I'm wait, this person is a human being. And I don't know if you guys have checked the status of marriage. 50% of them end in divorce and outside of the church. That means if you are in a group of people that are married and you see two couples, one out of the two couples that are married are going to be ending in divorce. That is what the numbers are saying. Is that what I want to believe? No. But the numbers are saying 50% of marriages end in divorce. So that means the happy couples that you see around you, half of them are not going to make it if we're not careful. And so it is not new for marital, affairs and problems to be rising, because that's the statistics. And our leaders and ourselves are not immune to what's going on in the world, right? And so that's why we really have to be prayerful. And so that's one of the things I noticed. I was just because this is not a session where I'm going to be bashing a pastor, talk about what's going on in his past and how he should have done this and done that. No, it's bad enough that his mistakes has been broadcasted publicly for a 500,000 plus people that are following him currently on Instagram. And then the rest of us who are having these conversations, and then his family, his wife and his kids that have to also go through public humiliation and try to heal publicly because their life is so out there. And the number of people that attend in the church, and I pray that they continue to attend in the church and that the Lord would give them new leader. So our leaders are humans and they will fall, and when they do, we shouldn't be able to fall along with them. Especially our faith should not be shaken, or we step away from the faith because a leader has fallen. It's inevitable. Like, humans fall, humans like sin against God, sin against people, but that it's God and his redemption that keeps us afloat, right? His keeping power is that's what's keeping us. Second thing is like in relation to what's going on. Because we get so caught up on our leaders and what they need to do for us and how they should be this perfect humans, that the moment we see them falling and making mistakes that are detrimental personally for their lives and publicly, what happens is we go to this cancel culture, condemnation, and just bashing, like he should have known better. How can he do that? Whatever. We just go into that mode of like trying to justify how broken that person is, right? And we're trying to justify our anger. But what happens is, I really remember this. So in Legacy Disciple Conference, there was a teaching done by Christina Edmondson. She is one of the hosts on Truth Table podcast. And I remember her teaching about grace. And she said something in the line of, and I'm obviously paraphrasing, but she said a line that really stood out to me. And she said, extend the amount of grace that you think you need. Meaning, how much grace do I think I need if I was in Pastor Carlin's position? Right? If I'm the one who stepped out on my husband and in my family and have had this affair, and I'm a leader of a church, what kind of grace do I expect to be extended? Do I want, not like an expectation people owe me, but like what is my prayer that people understand? What is my prayer that people will like show to me in that moment, like the lowest moment of your life, probably, right? And so I just wonder. And so we gotta be careful how we see our leaders and how we put so much pressure for them to be these perfect people, and they don't have room to make mistakes. And when they do, they are cast out. They are, excommunicated. Yes, biblically, he had to be sat down, right? So I'm not sitting here and telling you, excuse the cheating, excuse the sin. No, none of that. There are consequences. But outside, once a person is, living out the consequences, what is our response after? What's the congregation's response after? To show grace, to be prayerful, right? Because he still needs community and he still needs prayer. We all do. And so I hope we're not so reliant on what a man can do for us on this earth and forget who God is, right? Forget our alliance to him and where he stands in our life. So I hope that encourages you, and I hope that you use this to kind of like check your own hearts and say, hey, what's going on here? And how can I show compassion? How can I show grace? And how can I be prayerful? And how can I really see my worth and where I am with God? So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. This is a quick one. I appreciate you. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next week. Bye.